In today's video, we're going to talk about how can Dungeons & Dragons help neurodivergent children.
I'm a part of the LGBTQIA community, and so I already have just less self-confidence in myself already, but it does help when I'm playing D&D because I feel in the role.
So first, let's start by talking about Dungeons & Dragons itself. D&D, or Dungeons & Dragons, is a popular role-playing game that involves creating characters, exploring fantasy worlds, and engaging in social interactions with other players.
17?
The goblin lowers his club, raises his eyebrow, and says, "Friends?"
D&D can be a fun and rewarding hobby for anyone, but it can also have some specific benefits for neurodivergent children, such as those with autism or ADHD, or those on the spectrum.
So we might intentionally design the aspects of what they're going to encounter in the game based on the needs that they have as an individual. So if we have a player who is especially shy, we might put them in the scenario where the king is only willing to listen to them.
Neurodivergence refers to the diversity of human brains and minds and how they differ from the normative expectations of society. Neurodivergent people often face challenges in communication, socialization, learning, and self-regulation. This can lead to stigma, exclusion, and low self-esteem. However, neurodivergence can also be a source of creativity, insight, and resilience. So let's look at some specific ways that D&D can help neurodivergent children.
A report in the American Psychology of Today back in 1994 demonstrated a case study in which psychologists found that people afflicted with schizoid affective disorder could actually use the game of Dungeons & Dragons to generate rehabilitated emotional responses, practicing their ability to interact with the world in a safe environment where they could feel comfortable and confident. Dungeons & Dragons, while it may seem like just a game, could actually be one of the most versatile tools in a therapist's toolbox. And that's something that we could see happening more and more in the future.
It can provide a safe and supportive environment where they can express themselves, explore their identity, and develop their strengths.
Let's see.
Get a 6.
Oh, you swing and miss, he moves. And now Risha attacks, and she misses too. All right, this time the manticore tries to bite Rainbow. Misses you.
D&D, it can also foster social skills such as empathy, cooperation, negotiation, and conflict resolution by encouraging them to interact with other players and NPCs or non-player characters in various scenarios. It can enhance their cognitive skills such as attention, memory, problem-solving, and imagination by challenging them to follow rules, plan strategies, and create stories.
The fantasy game's role-playing space that gets created while you play creates this opportunity to inhabit someone else's skin. You can play someone who's like yourself, or you can play someone who's not like yourself. And because of the immersive narrative of the game, you and your fellow players are constantly put into situations where you're interacting with other people and other creatures, dragons, bartenders, dwarves, you get the picture. And you can imagine what their predicament is, what their situation is, what their point of view is. So this is why these fantasy role-playing games are the perfect empathy training machine for the real world. And so because of the game, and my experiences with the game, I can look at my arch nemesis at work. I can think about that guy on I-95 on the drive up here who cut me off. I can think about that bully I encountered in high school. I can think about my broken and sick mother with a little bit more empathy and a little bit more compassion.
It can boost emotional skills such as self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, and coping by allowing them to express different emotions, manage stress, and overcome obstacles. Let's take a look at some clips discussing these specific benefits.
So none of these games work without a story, without the imagination. Take a look at these maps and drawings I made back in the Reagan administration. I want you to focus on them just for a second, aside from admiring their amazing artistic skills. What goes on in your mind when you think about those, when you see those and imagine them in your minds? What I argue is that what's getting activated in your minds is the wondering mind. You begin to wonder, what goes on here? Who lives here? What's the story? what happens next? Now, for sure, we have movies and we have television shows and video games that offer these immersive, richly textured narratives and worlds. But they don't engage our imagination in the same way. And I think it's precisely because of role-playing games' crude tools, dice and pieces of paper and maps, and those silly little figurines. You are required to bring your imagination to the gaming table to complete the picture. Okay? We used to sit around the fire telling each other stories. And it seems to me that today we've settled for being passive consumers of prepackaged narratives. Stories, movies, which are created by millions of Hollywood dollars and thousands of digital animators. It seems as if that the power of storytelling has been taken from us. And role-playing games return that power to us. And they also spark the imagination. I can think of so many areas and interests that were sparked or kindled through my experience playing these games. Everything from history to poetry to geography to languages to the natural history and biology of elvish maidens. All because of this game. It made me want to be a storyteller and a creator and a world builder, and to take that imaginative leap to imagine a better world. So thanks to fantasy role-playing games, I use my imagination, and I am prepared, and I can think of out-of-the-box solutions to problems, and I know that I don't have to go it alone. I've found my team. I know I can rely on friends who have multiple talents and skills, who can get me out of scrapes. And I know that there's more than one way to defeat the monsters and solve the riddles and escape the darkness of my own life. And this leads me to role-playing games' most powerful magic. The key to confidence and the key to self-reliance is in controlling your own narrative. It's telling your own story. And stories connect us. And stories provide hope. In all of these role-playing games, there's a rule. If you want to do something, no matter what it is, however slim the odds, you take this 20-sided die and you roll it. And if you get a 20, you do it. It happens. You slay the dragon with a single blow. You kiss the girl. You love your mother. Deep inside all of us, inside our metaphorical dungeons, is a dragon. But we don't know if we can slay it or befriend it unless we try. So, to you I say, get out the Doritos and Mountain Dew. Arm yourself with pencil and graph paper and gather around the fire of each other's imaginations and go on an adventure.
But the game also has a strength that lies in its versatility. You see, every game of Dungeons & Dragons is an interplay between the referee, the dungeon master, and the players, which means every session can be tailored to the specific needs of a group. If the players are hoping to get a break from their daily experience of feeling hopelessness and anxiety, then playing a game in which they can take on the guise of confident, capable heroes can provide a mental break, a space for them to experience the chance to feel those feelings and learn how to deal with negativity in their everyday life without the overbearing feelings that might torment them otherwise. Players can also confront sensitive topics, using the game as an intermediary to develop powerful coping mechanisms without confronting subject matter directly that might otherwise trigger or reactivate trauma in the players. The game is capable of hijacking our innate inclination towards fun and imagination, and it's this that lets it teach us in ways that we aren't expecting. But this isn't just a theoretical concept. Mental health practitioners are beginning to use Dungeons & Dragons in their everyday practice. At Southeast Psych Palatine, psychologist Megan Connell is running a Dungeons & Dragons group which she has constructed from the ground up to provide young women with feelings of empowerment. She has 2 more groups on the horizon, one that she specifically designed for veterans returning from active duty, and another designed to create a social space for people lacking in social skills to practice and interact with other people. At PAX South, therapists Adam Davis and Adam Johns discussed their Wheelhouse initiative, a push for the use of other games like Dungeons & Dragons in therapy, so that therapists can form rapport with their patients more easily by channeling a medium that provides those patients with comfort and familiarity. But these techniques owe a lot to Dungeons & Dragons' newfound popularity. But even when the game was low-key, psychologists were beginning to experiment with its utility. For me, the idea of Dungeons & Dragons being good for more than just a fun evening is a very compelling one. As a child, I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which today is known as autistic spectrum disorder. It left me struggling to interact with people empathetically. I couldn't communicate effectively, and I was gripped by feelings of anxiety, inadequacy, and isolation. So maybe those 10 years I spent playing Dungeons & Dragons were doing more than just having fun. It might have been self-medication. And while it's certainly overzealous of me to claim that Dungeons & Dragons may have saved my social development, I'm going to make that claim anyway. Dungeons & Dragons is proof of the true power of storytelling, the power of our imagination. And it's a tool that we can use to shape our minds and the worlds that they inhabit going forward, making D&D as therapy a powerful idea for the future.